All right, today's video is a real crappy one. It is trying to fix the valve. It's leaking that's behind the toilet. I always tell the kids to stay out from behind the toilet, and here I'm playing in behind the toilet. It's a little ridiculous. I don't like these jobs, but hey, you got to do them. So anyways, what we're going to try and do is take this off, this nut off of here, and see whether or not we can fix it without having to remove the entire valve. It's an old valve. It's a 1980s vintage, so might be able to do this, might not. So I got the water turned off, and I have drained the toilet. So now we're going to try and take this nut off of here. It is all the way, the valve has been backed out all the way, but we'll just give it a little bit in there. So this is a 10-inch pipe wrench you want to put on here, and this piece comes right off like that. Typically what happens when these leak around the stem is the packing gets old and it doesn't seal it. So anyways, we're going to take this off here like this and pop this out, and then you'll see the seat and the packing. Well, you won't see the packing around the stem, but you will see the seat. Okay, I think that's good. Now it's a matter of undoing this. Unscrewing as you go, and there it is. So that's it. You can see the seat is right here. The packing is back up inside here. What I'm going to try and do is clean this all up. What you can do is soak this in vinegar, clean it all up, get all the scale and stuff off of it, take the cap off, and then I can, I'll show you the next step. You can actually pull the stem out through the packing, and we'll see whether we can fix this. Might even try and change the seat, although seats typically don't wear out because the valve's open all the time, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, we're out in the shop because the light is quite a bit better out here. I've got it in just plain vinegar, as you can see. It's just a bubbling away. It's the acetic acid in the vinegar eats up the scale that's on there. And because it's just vinegar, you can get in there and scrub it a little bit with your hands. It takes a little bit to get it all off, but we'll just keep working on this until it's nice and clean. Okay, I've been scrubbing away on this for about 10 minutes or so. We can get it decently clean. You can turn it in and out now, fairly easy once you get all that scale out of there. Now the next thing to do is to try and get this screw out of here. What I usually try and do is clean out the Phillips head screw. So clean out this area here so that you get a good bite with your screwdriver. Because if you round this thing off, you are hooped. Working with all this vinegar makes you almost want to have a pickle. Okay, we'll try and get that off of there. Let's see. Oh yeah, there it goes. I'd really get with it there. Anyway, here we go. All right. Now I'm going to just drop that back in there just so that it cleans it up too. Sometimes it's hard. Now there's a knurled shaft. You'll see the knurls on the end of this shaft. So you got to kind of wiggle it back and forth. That's pretty grungy in there, so we'll just drop it back in so that it cleans it up. And as you can see, I just used an old toothbrush to brush it. The shaft should be brass, so hopefully it's not scored up really bad. Sometimes what happens is the scale coats the shaft, and then as it gets turned in and out, the scale will actually score the soft brass shaft. So we're hoping that that isn't the case in this. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to make sure that we can clean this shaft up right here. You'll notice that there is a bit of, it could be rubber, it could be still scale all around this part of the shaft. Now we want to clean that up really well because we're going to try and slide this nut right back off the shaft because the packing, I might be able to do it right now. So the packing is actually up inside here. That's where the packing is. That's where we're getting our leak. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try and clean this shaft up really well. You just want to make sure that whatever comes off, like for instance this bronze washer, we want to make sure that we put it all back together in the same way that it came apart. So we notice that there is some scale on the back side of this one. We'll clean it up. The good brass side or the bronze side, whatever the case may be, goes up. So we'll make sure that we clean all this up really well. Sometimes a piece of sandpaper would help. Clean this up, and I might just go grab a piece of sandpaper. Okay, I got a piece of 220 grit sandpaper. We got to be really, really gentle with this sandpaper, and it's good to get it wet. All you're trying to do is just get any kind of scale off it. You don't want to scratch it. This one, it wouldn't be a big deal, but the shaft is a big deal if you get it really scratched. So it's a matter of cleaning it up. Okay, we've got this shaft nice and clean now, which is excellent. And we've got our washer all nice and clean. Now what we need to do is to make sure that this packing here is nice and clean also. And then you can push this back onto the shaft. You notice that there is a bit of play in here. It goes on much easier than it did, so it is clean inside. How these things work is when you place, that was the side up, when you place this on to the valve and you tighten this nut, what it does is it compacts, it squishes this packing around the shaft. So now that it's clean, we can actually go put it back together and then tighten this down more than it was. And what I'm hoping is that the packing is still spongy enough or malleable enough that it will squish down, pack around the shaft tight the way it was supposed to, and we won't have any more leak. But it's really important to just pop it off, clean it out really well. Then when we put it back together, we're not going to introduce any garbage, crud, whatever on here, and then it'll just continue to leak. I'll go ahead and put the nut back on and the cap. It's nice and clean now. So we'll do that first. Okay, I'll just reassemble this. So we have our stem. We have our packing washer in there. We slide this back on. Put our cap back on to the knurled portion. Screw back in the end. And we can just snug it up. Now we're ready to put it back onto the valve. Okay, there it is. Okay, here we are back behind the toilet. Oh joy, oh bliss. We've got to clean up this little area here. So we're going to use our little brush again just to clean out some of these threads. Okay, now we'll try and put back our valve stem back in the valve. So what we're doing now is just, you might have to wind it in a little bit to get it started. Then we can turn the packing nut back into place. Now, this is where you will tighten this packing nut to sandwich it onto the shaft. So you notice here it's really, really loose. So what we're going to do is we're going to tighten this down more. We're going to, now it's, you can feel that it's tightening around the shaft. And we know our shaft is clean, so we're not going to wreck it. So we can actually tighten this down just a hair more, just to make sure. We'll leave the valve out because I'm going to go turn the water on. And we'll see how we do. We may end up having to snug this down a little bit more. Now, after watching this whole video, you may find that your valve is quite clean, and all you have to do is just tighten up the packing nut. So, you know, if all this area here is really nice and clean already, and it's just leaking a little around the shaft, just go ahead and tighten up the packing nut, and it should fix it for you. But in my case, it was really nasty, so I wanted to clean it all up so I wasn't damaging that packing that was inside, and I could still, you know, use the valve. So I'll turn the water on. We'll see what we got. Okay, so the water's turned back on, and we'll check for any leaks under here. That feels dry. And this feels dry too. Yeah, awesome. So it worked good. Now, if you find that over the next couple of days or whatever that it does start to leak, just don't be afraid to just tighten this packing nut, this guy right here. Just tighten it up a little bit more. And you should be good. Anyways, I hope this helps, and thanks for watching.